Hi, I'm Matt, and this is Leah, and we are the founders of Barnacle Foods. We share the foods and flavors of Alaska's coast with people all around the world, and our goal is to do that in a way that's good for the environment, good for our communities, and makes a positive impact in the economies that we're a part of.
We are excited and committed to creating a business that brings value to the communities of our region, and we really want to plant the value of the ingredients that we're harvesting, like kelp and berries and spruce tips, with the people who live here. The primary ingredient that we use is bull kelp, and we source bull kelp from wild kelp beds, and we also are partnering with kelp farmers around the state.
For us, kelp is something that we can share from our region that's unique to the Alaskan coast and bring it to people in foods that they enjoy every day.
Kelp is the future of food. Not only is it incredibly savory and delicious, it's packed with all sorts of vitamins and minerals, and it's super renewable, which is one of the reasons that we're really excited about using it in our foods. When it grows in the wild, it can grow up to 10 inches per day. And on kelp farms, which are just starting in Alaska, it can be a great tool to actually improve ocean health.
Kelp grows incredibly fast, and while it's growing, it absorbs what's around it in the ocean. So it concentrates nutrients and diverse minerals from the ocean, and it pulls carbon out of the water to build its structure, which is vast and enormous. It's a forest. And so by planting it on farms and sustainably harvesting from wild kelp beds, we're using kelp as a tool to pull the carbon out of the ocean and concentrate it. And then by harvesting it, we're removing the carbon out of the ocean, which can buffer ocean acidification on a small scale. And as our demand and the number of kelp farms around Alaska increases, we can actually have an impact on our oceans that will grow over time.
So heading out on the water and harvesting is one of my favorite parts of the job, and we always like to share this experience with other members of our team. When we go out and harvest, we go anywhere from an hour boat ride to a full day's ride from Juneau. And it's really important that the weather is calm when we're harvesting the kelp, because each piece is harvested by hand and it requires leaning over the side of the boat. We pull up to a kelp bed, usually at low tide, and each piece of kelp is lifted up, picked by hand, and cut off. And when we're harvesting from a kelp bed, we're really making sure that the health of the kelp bed and the wildlife that depends on that kelp bed is taking priority. So we only visit a kelp bed once per season, and we make sure to spread out our harvest so that year after year the kelp beds can continue to exist and be healthy. So we lean over the boat, we pick up a piece of kelp, we bring it on board, and then we usually sort it into the stipe and the fronds. And the stipe, which is like the stem of the bull kelp, is what we use in our pickles and our salsa and our hot sauce. And the fronds, which is the leafy part of the bull kelp that floats on the surface, is sorted, and that's dried, and that's what we make our kelp seasonings out of.
We have a team that varies with the seasons. Our busiest time of year is in the summer, when the fresh kelp is being harvested and brought back to the kitchen. We'll have anywhere from 10 to 12 people working on the line, and our focus during this time of year is pickle making. Pickles must be made from the fresh kelp, and you want to keep them crispy, and there's a lot of particular processes that involve all hands on deck. So we have just a facility bursting at the seams, full of people packing pickles into jars, dipping them into the hot water bath, pulling them out, spraying them down, cooling them, transporting them to the labeling side. The pickling season is about 2 months, and it's hot in the kitchen. Everyone's working hard, And in the fall, we transition towards production of a lot of other products like salsas and jams and jellies and hot sauce, which we can make from the frozen kelp. And we'll get ahead on our production leading into the busy holiday season. And now everyone's packing orders and putting jars into nice gift boxes that we share with people all over the country.
One of the more rewarding aspects of running Barnacle Foods and being rooted in our communities here in Alaska is the team that we get to build. And over the last couple of years, we've partnered with Tlingit and Haida on their youth employment program and have been able to bring in some young people to work with us. And we hope that this experience inspires them to really stay in our communities and invest in a future here that can be good for the people that live here and the oceans and the coast that we all appreciate so much. We are invested in investing in young people and people who are interested in the future of our communities and the people who live in Alaska. And we've been able to do this in a variety of ways, but one of the more rewarding ways is to bring young people onto our team and provide this framework for people to be involved in a business that's growing and that wants to grow in a really thoughtful way that can have positive impacts on things that we all appreciate.
On top of making these really delicious products, what's really exciting about them is they're made from a primary ingredient of kelp. And working with kelp and the growing mariculture industry in Alaska has potential to have positive impacts on our oceans, on our communities, and the economy. And Barnacle has become a leader in this emerging industry across the country. And there's a growing awareness that by eating more kelp, we can sequester carbon from the oceans and we can combat climate change in a tangible way. And so as our business grows and the bigger scale and the more kelp farms we work with, the better environmental impact we can have on our local oceans. And as that awareness spreads, so can the positive impact that we have globally. And that's what's really exciting to us about this business, and what's also giving us a lot of attention outside of Alaska and why people are paying attention to what we're doing. And so our goal is to connect people to the oceans and help them realize that they can make a positive impact based on the foods they eat.
By eating kelp, you can have a positive impact on your oceans. We are honored to partner with Sealaska, and as we look to the future, we look back and are so grateful that for thousands of years this land and the oceans have been stewarded by the Tlingit and the Haida and the Tsimshian people that have lived here long before us.
Like a barnacle, we're rooted in this wonderful place between the land and the sea with a foot in each world. And we feel incredibly fortunate to call this place our home and want to make the most of what we have here. We love working with food as our products because they're fun, they're delicious, they bring people joy, they bring people together, and we've always loved sharing foods. And our foods also connect us to the traditions in Alaska of putting up food seasonally. And we like to think of our products as little treasures of the summer sun, and we aim to preserve them at their peak flavor and quality so that in the winter when it's dark and cold, you can pop that jar and it's just like tasting the sunshine from the Alaskan summer.
One of our favorite ways to eat kelp is paired with salmon. And today we're going to do just that. Here we go. We'll start with the salmon. This is some smoked coho that we caught here in Juneau. We'll break it up to start with. This will make it easier to mix in all the other ingredients. Next comes the cream cheese. A little bit of Dijon mustard. That adds a nice kind of tangy flavor. Mix that up. Next we'll go with some onions. We'll chop those up really fine. That adds some nice texture to the salmon dip and a little crunch. Red bell peppers are nice to use. They add a little splash of color and also that fresh kind of crunchy flavor. Some green onions add a nice zing, a little spice. Some fresh garlic, that's really important. And next, the kelp pickles. The kelp pickles add a really nice savory flavor, and the flavor of the kelp pickles really complements the smoky savoriness of the salmon. Now we'll mix in all the veggies. So we've got our pickles, the onions, garlic, peppers, anything else that you like to add to your salmon dip. It'd be a good time to add it. A little bit of pickle brine kind of binds it all together, and it's almost ready. A little bit of fresh dill if you can find some. We'll add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper to taste if you'd like, and mix that up. And here we go, the most important. Slather some of that salmon dip on a piece of sailor bread. Top with some kelp pickles, a little bit of everything seasoning, which adds a nice garlicky, salty flavor, a little bit of crunch. Some fresh dill. You're ready to roll. We'd love to see what you create this holiday season. Check us out online at barnaclefoods.com or on Facebook or Instagram at Barnacle Foods. Show us your salmon dip.